recording the session.
Okay, can you see me, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Because I can't, something else just came on. How to do it? Continue? Okay, all right. My production manager keeps running in and out because when things happen, I'm not quite sure what they are. All right, my friends, whoever and whatever you are, whatever religion, race, at this point of the game, we're talking spirituality, which doesn't care. Regretfully, it's like the current virus we have right now. Everybody's taking sides, but that virus doesn't care about what side, what shade, what religion you are. It just is a virus. I found out the best way when I was teaching through the years is to follow the rules of science. And one of those rules is that if you repeat something at least 3 times, it generally becomes part of memory. So if every once in a while I repeat something I said before, it's because we are going back to basics here, which we have removed ourselves from during our entire life process. Once again, I'll remind you that in Exodus 1:27, whatever the voice was, and at that time it was my firm belief we were not even in body form, this was mind-to-mind communication. The voice said, "You are made in my own image." Remember that, it's extremely important because I will be working with that as we go along. You and I are made in the image and likeness of the Creator of God. In 2:19, when he got done with configuring the entire universe as we know it, he said very clearly, Adam, whatsoever you call it and whatever name you give it to, that is going to be the name of that forever. Here, very clearly, what the Creator was doing was turning creation over to his human edification, Adam, and saying, now it's your job. Be careful. Whatever you say, whatever you declare, it must happen because you and I are one. And the last thing, further back in the Old Testament, Moses went up to the mountain and prostrated himself at the immense energy and the power that was exhibited and asked very clearly, what are you? Who are you? And the answer was simply, I am that I am. Those 3 will be discussed more in detail, but because that is the basic premise of everything we're doing right now, try to recall them. Last week, I read a short prayer, and I was going to do it again tonight, but my wife said, don't. Well, I'm listening to her, but I'm going to give you the first line because it's significant. Hear this very loud, very clear. Because you are the only person you will have a relationship with all your life, I choose. That's the key to virtually everything we'll be talking about for weeks to come. You are the only person you will have a relationship all of your life. And during that process, you choose. Everything else is predicated on that. The rest is just taking that and carrying it out to a further line. Some of the readings I'm going to do, when I give them to you, you're going to wonder, what does that have to do with mindfulness and spirituality? But they're little tests to get into ourselves and begin to realize the work is going to be done by us. This one is very powerful. I've read it many times through the years. Once again, I honestly do not know the author. It was handed to me by one of our people, but I think it's extremely powerful. It happens to be called Tomorrow. He was going to be all he wanted to be tomorrow. None would be better, kinder than he tomorrow. A friend who was troubled and weary, he knew, who would be glad of a lift and needed it too. On him he would call and see what he could do tomorrow. Every morning he stacked up the letters he'd write tomorrow. And he thought of the folks he could fill with delight tomorrow. And he hadn't a moment to stop on his way. More time I'll give to others, he'd say, but tomorrow. The greatest of workers this man would have been tomorrow, the world would have hailed him had he ever seen tomorrow. But in fact, he passed on and he faded from view, and all that he left here when his living was through was a mountain of things he intended to do tomorrow. Hear that clearly and ask yourself how much of that has been a greater portion of your life. I truthfully know it wasn't mine. I was always so busy trying to move ahead, climb over others, try to gain recognition. And it was always tomorrow. I never really looked at where I was at the particular moment, and that's mindfulness, and we will get into that. But mindfulness has no past. It has no tomorrows. Mindfulness is that moment, the moment. And we'll further develop it. In an effort to try and be intelligent, probably beyond what I really deserve, I went looking through some things and I found some writings. This was at one time going to be one chapter in the book, and I called it One-on-One. I trust all of you know what one-on-one is in the sports world. It's when you play against another team, one-on-one. Well, in this case, one-on-one, you and I against our own minds. That's our great battle. And I wrote, it has been believed that from the time we recognize the funny sounds coming from the strange people who are around us, that we realize they have meaning, that we began to give up some of our own self. It is my belief that from the time the first neuron cell existed in the earliest stages of development, the loss of ourselves began. Every child during gestation depends on the feelings, the diet, the moods of the mother. The imprints of her discomfort, regarded as a result of smoking or drinking, anger, frustration, become encoded on that infant's nervous system. Later, after birth, these emotions, environmental influence, demonstrate as a happy baby, an unhappy baby, a colic child, an addicted child, and so many other choices. The destruction of self-possibility, the very divine part of each of us, has started. The substitution of other people's feelings, other people's ideas, your own ideas has begun. It isn't surprising that Emerson indicated that a large part of the educational process is at some point in life a process of unlearning all these things. Now, I'm not saying these factors are here to scare you and make you feel it's an impossible task, but to ask you to consider just how long ago you began formatting your mind all from the human equation as opposed to the spiritual feeling. If you do that, it allows you to understand of the amazing and difficult amount of work that is coming in your direction. One of those is when you lose the second page of what you wanted to say, which I just did. But I made the point anyway. We have formatted ourselves, and in the process of our humanity, we forgot that everything we ever needed has been with us since the beginning, the very moment of our conception. And from that point on, we deviated and headed in the direction of humanity. And because it has withstood so much time for so many of us, it becomes what we call habit. And we don't like changing our habits, because they have become very comfortable to us. And habit is difficult to change, as you know, by all the forms of addictions that exist on this planet. All of them are self-imposed. Nobody was given drugs at birth. We decided to take them. Nobody had a bottle next to you to go and drink. That was a decision we made. This is where we go and we start creating, as I did, the Edwin in the process. I never was really a bad drinker, but I was a pretty good one. In fact, I was told I was most enjoyable when I was in a nice high state. Otherwise, I was too serious. But the key to the whole thing is to recognize, because they are habit and they are belief systems that we have created, they're extremely difficult to alter, to change. Even it means that it is keeping us away from our own spirituality. The importance of that reading is to make you recognize this is not going to be easy work. This is daily work, hourly work, by-the-minute work. That's why the topic of mindfulness is so very significant, so very important, because that is second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour work to overcome and to recognize all the things we accumulated that do not support our spirituality. I'm going to read one more because it was written by somebody I dearly love. She's a brilliant writer, in my opinion, and the person's called Phyllis Dyson. This one was on mindfulness. Surprising enough, we had talked about mindfulness long ago. So when Michael came to me with mindfulness, I said, oh, that's great. And I knew I had something somewhere. And this was one of the many pieces she wrote for a monthly magazine called A Clearer View. And this was what she wrote. Some Days Are Diamonds, and Some Days Are Stones by John Denver. Some day it's heaven, some day it's hell, some days I don't even know. Sung by another favorite, Waylon Jennings. Well, you can tell I'm a country western fan, but I'm also a science of mind person. And the science of mind teaches that all days are exactly what you and I make them. So how can we turn our stone days and I don't even know days into better days? Well, an Eastern practice called mindfulness is one way. The Tibetan Book of the Living and Dead says mindfulness is bringing the scattered mind back home, or have your mind where your body is. If you're exercising, pay full attention to that leg lift. Feel every muscle that's working. Be aware of every movement. Don't think what's for dinner. If you're dancing, become immersed in the rhythm, in the music, in the beat. Become a dancing fool. And when you're engaged in conversation, don't just hear the other person while you're waiting to speak. Listen. When you become an active listener, your memory seems to improve. It's not your memory, you simply are listening, really listened. People will always say then, what a great conversationalist. Not so. What a great listener is more the point. Negative thoughts and feelings get stronger as you contemplate the past or you ponder the future. Don't indulge these feelings. View them for what they are, thoughts, but realize they create feelings. When you practice mindfulness, you are living in the present moment. As you step out of memory into the active present, unkind thoughts and feelings will slip away and confusion disappears. It's therapeutic. It's healing. Someone once said, carpe diem, seize the day. Really think about that. And I'll go one better. Think about seize the moment. Look at it. Be there, face to face. See it for all that it really is. A treasure, unique and original, always renewing. This moment is all you really have, and that too soon becomes a memory. Tomorrow or the next life, which comes first, we never know. That's mindfulness. It's mindfulness in a very beautiful way. And I'm going to do one more because I think it was important. Oh, that was the second page. Okay, I covered that. What else? Okay. Here's what happens to a lot of us as we go through life. I don't know. I didn't create this either, but I don't have a name at the bottom. But I consider it to be most important so you understand the great work you're going to begin effective today. Right after we're out of here, you can begin the process. Last week, I made a suggestion to you. Before you go to bed at night, 10, 15, 20 minutes in advance, look your day over. It's the only way you're going to realize why did this all happen today, is to go and look and see what you contributed to whatever the situation is. But we have been taught that the mind takes into sleep whatever the last days of the thought are. So look through the day, look through hard. Try to find at least 3 wonderful things that occurred, either to you or that you did for somebody else. Focus on them and then just become quiet. And we'll develop the idea of meditation at some future point. but become quiet. Listen. Listen to the voiceless voice. For with that and in that information, you'll realize that you just became Adam. You named something that day, and that became the principle of your life for that moment, maybe even longer. You are deciding what to call it because you are the I am. Said it to you. I am that I am. And he said, I made you in my image and my likeness. That wasn't just words. That was mind talking to mind. And it said very clearly, you are me and I am you. When you get to that level, anything that you decide must happen. It has to happen. It's part of the laws of the universe. So I tried to figure out through the years why we don't do all of those things, and I thought this was beautiful. So I will put this in. More often than not, I will not do 3 readings, but as I was going through everything, this came up. The rules for being human. Number 1, you will receive a body. You might like it, you might hate it, but it's yours for the entire period this time. 2, you will learn lessons. You're enrolled in a full-time and formal school called life. In fact, on Sundays, we used to call our talks life lessons. Each day in this school, you'll have opportunity to learn lessons. You might like the lessons or think them even irrelevant and quite stupid. 3, no mistakes. Remember what we discussed about labeling good and bad and failure and success? No, there are no mistakes. Only lessons. Growth is a process of trial and error, and it's experimentation. That's why we are religious scientists. The failed experiments is much of the part of the process as the experiment that ultimately works. 4, a lesson will be repeated until it is learned. It will be presented to you in various forms until you have learned it. When you have learned it, you don't stop, for that is sure mental and physical death. You go to the next lesson. 5, learning lessons do not end. There's no part of life that doesn't contain something in a lesson. If you're alive, there are lessons to be learned. 6, when you're there has become here, you'll simply obtain another there that will again look back and say here. 7, others are mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate something that another person is unless it reflects to you something you love or hate yourself. That's a very valuable lesson. I'll repeat it. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it reflects to you something you love or hate about yourself. 8, what you make of life is up to you. You have every tool and every resource you need. What you do to them is up to you. Whereas we said, choice is yours. 9, your answers lie within inside you. Hear that. Your answers lie inside you. Humanity is about outside. That's the idea of meditation, to go inside, to go where the silence talks. Not you, not me, not us. Number 10 is the biggest one. You'll forget all of this that I just told you, because that's the way we are as human beings. If we choose not to want to remember or we didn't like what was said, we simply forget it. Well, we're now at a point where mindfulness becomes the reality of everything we've been speaking about for the last 3 weeks. Quite simply, it says, put the body where the mind is. And one more moment, and then I'll stop at this business here. All right, I won't even do that. Well, yes, I will. And this is the last thing. This is not sermonizing. This is not pointing fingers. This is not punishing you or saying you should look at yourself and judge yourself. By the way, listen to that word, judge me. You judge you, you judge everybody else. That's why it's in the Bible. It said, don't judge. It said, judge me not. Okay, this is the last one, because it's true. This is your world. You have created every aspect, every detail of it, for your own entertainment and your own satisfaction. The parts you don't like, you created so that there were parts you don't like. And the parts you don't know about, you created because it wouldn't be any fun if there weren't any parts you didn't know about. The things you want and don't have, you created so you would have something to strive for. The things you would do anything have different, you created in order to provide yourself with the highest degree of motivation. But most of all, you created all of it, not by making it, by noticing it, by distinguishing it, by separating out. Until you came along, it was undifferentiated spirit. Then you put I apostrophe M, and turned it to a detail, a planet filled with distraction and life, and you have exactly the life the way that you want it because you created it. Awesome, isn't it? That again was written by my wife. All right, let's develop something here. I'd like you to go back into the sentence, I am that I am. And I want you to recall how we started this again. What God went and said in the beginning of time to Adam, I've done my work. Now it is your job to take it all. And as a result, anything you name it, it will become. It's amazing that we don't realize that we are energy, and all energy is created of atoms and molecules and subparticles. And the only difference between a tree or a dog is the way the atoms are constructed and brought together by energy. Technically, if your atoms had been moved around a bit, we could have been coming out speaking dog instead of speaking the languages we are taught and the languages we learn. But we were blessed. We were given the opportunity, like he was, to realize he had everything. It was in what they called the Garden of Eden. It was the world of mind with everything available that he could ever need and want in his lifetime. And then again, it says as part of the process creation, that creator realized he needed some help and a partner, and women were made from one of the ribs or two of the ribs of Adam. So now you have two beautiful people in his most magnificent garden with everything that anybody could ever want, which is our mind of spirit. But he said something to them. He said, hey, see that tree over there? Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. That's all I ask of you. How many times have we had in our own mind somebody saying that to us? Don't do something, and we chose not to because we knew better. Well, apparently they did. And subsequently they were tempted and they ate the fruit of the tree. And that's the first time we became human, not soul and spirit. And we separated ourselves from the very thing that created us. And we entered the world of humanity. And ever since that, because of the way things happen from the moment of birth through many different facets and features, we create our human world. And we're so busy in the process, we forget that we truly are spiritual human beings, spirituality and body. In our church, we used to also have another thing. Well, I never really called it a church. I considered it a teaching. But one of the things to take the load off some people, I found this song that I used to sing when I was a kid, and I just want to share it for you for a minute because it fits into this talk. It's row, row, row your boat. Any of you ever remember that? Wonderful. If you don't, this is the way it went. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. Think about it. Spiritually, mentally, physically. Row, row, row. You have to do the work. Your boat, nobody else's. You owe it nothing to anyone else. It's your boat, and you make the decisions, what you bring into life, what you do with them, what you call them, and the result you got. Gently, it says, gently down the stream. It says, don't fight life. Trust in the Creator to supply what you always had from the beginning. Go gently down the stream. Don't fight the tide. Gently down the stream means being surrounded by the gift of the Creator to you. It's all there waiting for you to once again find what you had in the beginning. And then life is but a dream. Means your thoughts are what make your life. Thoughts are things. You allow them in, you bless them, you give them the power of the energy of the universe, and they must demonstrate in precisely the exact moment. That's why I did these readings. I said, you're now at a point in life, and I have no idea what the ages of the people are that are listening to this, where you have to begin to ask yourself, what did I mess up? Because the Creator didn't mess up anything this morning. When He created you and gave you another day of life, and it's not even a he or a she, but whatever that magnificent energy is, it finished its job. That's what it did. Gave you life. And then it turns around and it says to you, now what are you going to do with it? Now my question to you is, what did you do with it today? Not what you did with it in the past. The past is the past, unless once again you think about it and bring it into the present, then it's not the past, it's the present all over again. So you can look at some of that if you choose to. You can blame your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your friends, your job. And maybe down by the time you get to the list of when everything was done to you, you might remember you did it because you accepted all of that nonsense. Nonsense makes no sense, but we do. And we're going through that crisis right now in this magnificent country as never before. As people simply do not want to see what's the reality. But the truth is, in our own minds, we have always created our own reality, whether it can be backed up by fact or not. It was our reality. We brought it in. We chose to demonstrate it. So are you demonstrating or are you demonstrating? You have a choice. Which way is your consciousness working? In your behalf or against it? Removing you further away from the spiritual and divine created and sense you are. Notice I said creator and sense. You are creators. You were promised that. I read the readings that promised that very, very clearly. That's why I repeated them. I said to Adam, you call it, you make it what you want, and it's so. The first sentence is the prayer. I said, you're the only one that will have a relationship all your life. You, once again, it's you. And that's not ego. That's fact. Our life is a complete result of everything that we have accepted, picked up, or learned, and then used to go and call it our life. I am that I am. And I'm getting close to my time here, kids. I have something else I wanted to do, but I'll do it next week. I am that I am. Two most important words in your entire life. I and am. Why? Because they were stated by the Creator to Moses. He said, I am that I am. But this I am feeds that I am, and then we become creators. Creators of word, creators of deed, creators from sources we sometimes can't remember. Where did that thought come from? Ask yourself that someday. Where do thoughts come from? Thoughts that I didn't pick up and I didn't create and I didn't find in a book and I wasn't taught. Where are they coming from? They're coming from the same place that Adam was told, the same place that Moses was told. It's the I am speaking, not by voice, by mind, mind to mind. When Moses was up on that building, there was no physical human being on that mountain. It was stated was a huge fire, a massive energy source. that was so powerful he recognized that he was talking to whatever it is that created all of the universe. And he was told that day, he was told well before that day, you are my image, my likeness. I am. So every time you use the word I am, ask yourself, what are you attaching to it? What power are you giving it? Because I assure you, the laws of the universe, it must and it will demonstrate in your life, and it has. You may really like to blame all your hard times on everything else, but like it says in so many books, failures are generally a good prodding from the divine source to go and make you do what you were intended to. So watch your vocabulary, please. Do not label if you don't want it to happen in your life. For the minute we put the label on it with our belief systems, it is going to be part of our life process. So I'm going to pipe down now, and I'm going to step out of here, but I forgot the one other thing I really wanted to do, and I'm going to do it right now, if I can find it. Well, I lost the second piece of, oh no, here it is, because I don't like misquoting. Everything that happens is part of a divine plan. Hear that clearly. It's part of a divine plan. And how we react with our own free will to the situations will determine whether they help us or hinder us during our spiritual practices. That's what we're going to start when we hang up tonight. We're going to begin to start looking back and seeing where we started hindering this magnificent process of life, and all the opportunity to go and work and recognize that we're spiritually sound. You will never be any more spiritual than you be right now, but you may have forgotten that and made your humanist you instead of the spiritual self. So have some fun this week. Do some of the things. Ask yourself, are you a tomorrow? Or have you decided effective today you will be a now in the moment? That's mindfulness. I will get more detail on that in past weeks. All yours, Michael. Go and get them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dizer. This is another powerful message. I will have a relationship with my life to love myself the way I am. And, you know, I have a couple of friends on tonight. We have a group session where we all share the fact that we are cancer survivors. And I keep saying to the group, whatever you say, you become. And you're telling us now, you say, if we say, I am sick, means you are will and you are going to become sick, but don't claim it, that we are spirit in a body. And the quicker we get back to our spirituality, where we become one with God or one with Source, if that's what I'm hearing you say, it's the quicker we are going to be able to enjoy the life that Source has placed us on earth to enjoy. So at this time, we're going to say, if anybody has any opinions, any statements, any questions, we're going to open the floor. Anybody have anything they would love to say? Anybody?
It couldn't be that good.
It's that good.
There must be some questions. Must be some questions. I'm not that great. Ask my wife, she'll tell you.
Do you have anything?
Michael, could I have
Go ahead, Dale. Yes, go ahead.
Just to continue what Dr. Dizer was saying about I am, it is a very, very powerful phrase, in that even the gospel of Jesus, I am the bread of life, I am the light of the world, I am the door, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way and the truth. Before Abraham was, I am. Where I am, you may also be. What Dr. Dizer has said has brought those sayings to a different light as far as I'm concerned for myself personally. Thank you.
May I add a small piece to that? I don't remember what part, but it's New Testament. When a centurion came to Jesus, because he had heard of all the wonders and the miracles that he had completed, he asked, I have a very beloved servant that is very, very ill. Please cure him. Now, that servant was hundreds of miles away, and that was the days when to travel 100 miles was a very tedious journey. But Christ looked at him and said, it is done. And he said, oh, thank you. And his Roman language, no doubt, he was Roman. But he turned to me and said, it is not I that has healed him. It is you and your belief. They said he went back home and the servant was cured. You see, he said it very clearly that he never did it all. His great statement to us was, I and the Father are one. I and the creative spirit have become one. And he did this because he traveled all over the world while he was younger. Remember, they raced to Egypt to save him so they wouldn't be killed. He had all the sciences of Egypt, which at that time were incredible and have been lost to us. We still can't even figure out how the pyramids were really put up, that it's humanly impossible, but it was done. All that knowledge was available to him. And then he traveled, exclaimed, he went to the Far East, the Middle East, he learned all. He saturated himself from the time of his bar mitzvah, which, because he was Jewish, was 13 years of age. He saturated himself with all the great knowledges of the world until he dropped his humanness and he became exactly what he said. I and my Father are one. Well, I'm to the point where humanly I can believe it, but I'm now trying to get to the place where I can be it. Wouldn't that be just wonderful? And how we would change. But remember, that was the answer. Every time they said he did a miracle, he said, I didn't do it. My Father did it through me. He never claimed as a human to be able to accomplish anything without the benefit of the Creator. That's what this mindfulness is going to be all about, getting ourselves closer to it, back to it, and bless you, if you're able to really become it, come to my house. I'll need your help. Continue, please, with the question.
Any other question?
I just have a comment, Mr. Chambers.
Go ahead, Claudette.
This is Claudette. It's amazing how nothing is in a vacuum. You know, everything just works together in synergy. And the doctor in his opening speech today said everything happens according to divine plan. Last night I was at work and I was listening to something on YouTube, and it was a Jewish, it was a rabbi, and he was saying that they have this thing in their custom where 3 times a day they repeat, the Lord thy God is one. And the question was, what is our purpose as humans in life? And his answer was to do God's will. And then he asked, like, how do you accomplish God's will? And you do it because of the I am that's in you. You recognize your oneness with God. And then God uses us to complete his will. And so the doctor today just kind of reinforced everything and solidified it, and just so to show the synergy of the whole our whole experience and just God's plan for our life, to show that though we're not in a vacuum, the same spirit that is in you is in me and is in everyone. Culture doesn't matter, people don't matter, it's just one God. And so I really appreciate how I was able to reconcile all of that by joining in tonight, and just thank you for the invite.
Well, thank you for the question. Well, it's not actually a question, it's a remarkable comment, and I appreciate it very much. While you were speaking, like usual, and this is what we do, we tend to want to be the big shot and come out with something brilliant. And then we don't even hear some of what you said because we're ready to go and comment either to defend ourselves or show we're smarter than you are. That's something that we really have to stop. In fact, how much time have we got, Michael?
As much as you want, sir.
How much time have you got? I don't want to run over.
No, you can go another 10 minutes.
I'm
Give me-
sure
give
I
me
have it coming.
a half a minute and I'll give you what I'm looking for. Because it's very important and it's a big part of mindfulness. And I may not have chosen to do it. All right, I'm going to read it to you next week, ladies and gentlemen, because it's very, very important. It's called Listen. That's the name of the poem, Listen. We cannot listen to our Creator if we're overpowering it with all our humanity and all our human things. That's why it's coming down to how are we going to change now? Will we make the decision tonight? Not to be tomorrow, people, but tonight. To do something useful to begin the process of bringing it back to recognize how deep is the meaning when he was told, you will name it all, and you and I, you are the image and likeness of me. And then when he answered, I am that I am, he simply said, if you can match the two, there is no limit to what's possible. And maybe we'll start not working so hard to find what we want out here or go. Nothing wrong with prayer. It's just that my opinion is done incorrectly. We're begging for it. We think we have to pray to get it. The teaching says, and these statements in the Bible say, you have it all. What I'm praying for, says he to us, is that you finally get to a place you recognize where it all is because it's always been there for you. You don't have to beg for it. I'm begging you to open your hearts and your mind to see that you don't have to work hard. You have always had everything that you ever needed, but you can't see it. You're too busy trying to grab it from someplace else. So mindfulness is to get quiet, to be aware. Meditation is a way we go about doing it. And it's not going to be easy. I will discuss that next week. I've had so many people tell me through the years, I can't meditate. I'm not able to. The minute I try to get quiet, my mind goes crazy. And I can't, and I'm not, and I can't, and I can't. You hear those words, I can't. Remember what I said? You label it, it happens. Anybody can meditate, but it is a discipline. And my goodness me, how we hate to discipline ourselves. But I'll go into those steps because in this house, this family, very big, many answers from places I know where they came from, but I'm just amazed they come at times through me because I forgot. It is me and I am it, but I've lost it. You're going to start working as of today to get it back. Mouth closed.
Thank you. Thank you.